Wait till they get a load of me.
And me.
And me. Okay people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today let's take a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse White Nightwave. I think it's called the White Nightwave, something like that. First of all, thank you to McFarlane Toys for sending these out. I love looking at their stuff. After years and years and years of not buying McFarlane Toys because of either articulation or scale, or I wasn't interested in what they were doing, suddenly Fortnite, Mortal Kombat, My Hero Academia, DC Multiverse, it's like they whipped into gear. And while all those lines are larger than my beloved 6-inch scale, I feel myself building like this. It's a set that goes together, so it's a mini display on the shelf one day when I get my DC stuff up. Plus, in the case of White Knight, I've never read the storyline, but the figures are actually making me interested in going and reading the comics. And that's always a good thing, going out and finding out where these characters came from. Or, well, at least these looks. I know who Batman is, I know who the Joker is, but this seems to be a completely different story altogether. Looking at the packages, this is what we're used to with the new McFarlane DC Multiverse line. Big window shows some blue background, and then we see the cards behind each character. Very cluttered inside the window, very clean on the outside. Same thing for the sides, black, DC Multiverse, the name of the character. On the back, bigger versions. Is it the cards from the inside? Yeah. And down at the bottom, just other characters in the line. On the other side, Batman. Oh, and it tells where it's from. White Knight, Curse of the White Knight. So it's not all from the same series. Exactly. On the top, windows shining down on top of their heads. On the bottom, legalese, UPCs. Let's get these open and see what's going on here. And in any other instance, I would save Joker for last because he's one of my favorite characters of all time. But this time around, these just seem more interesting. So let's do Joker first. And I don't mean this is a bad look for the Joker or an uninteresting looking figure or character. Not knowing the story, I look at it and think, oh, well, it's Joker, but he's in SWAT gear. It's your basic McFarlane stand, I'm betting. DC on it, 1 foot peg. And then the card, nice artwork on the front. On the back, it gives you all the information. Get out! Getting it all out of the package, though, having only looked at a few Google pictures of the artwork, it seems to match there really well. It's a nice contrast of a lot of detail on the vest, and there's some wrinkles and there's some stripes, but it's fairly basic on the rest of the body. The sleeves do have a nice rolled up effect to them with the bunch up back here. There's stripes running down the middle and, oh well, up the middle too. Then down the sides of the legs, down to the shoes that have the matching color, matching design. But it's the vest that really stands out at me with the zipper running up the middle and the pouches and the little buttons. This is tampoed on, there's no sculpt to these letters, but the badge is sculpted on and it's a nice little design. You can even see Napier right there. And I feel like it should be like painted to bring it out a little bit, but then I'm also thinking it matches the artwork. Have the walkie-talkie up looped around the shoulder right there, and it's sculpted in. It's not a separate piece, but that runs down to the walkie-talkie on the back. And that's along with some plate work and some seams and a few more buttons, a few more pouches. The color separations between this green and this black color, it's all nice and clean, even down on the stripes on the legs. But there is a slight grayish wash to the vest itself, just to bring out the edges. It helps show a little wear and tear to it. Up at the head is where we get a lot of the different paintwork with the washes and the different colors, but unfortunately on mine, the tampo for the eyes completely missed the sculpt right here. The left seems okay, his right, it's just above the sculpt. So it gives him kind of a, I'd be okay with one eye looking bigger than the other. That's just a crazy kind of look, but I think I'm gonna have to go in there, paint white over that and try to redo them. But the rest of the head is awesome. I love this bright green color used here over the black wash, and then the red lips looking rough, like he applied them real quick heading out the door. The pink and the teeth just kind of run together. It looks like he's got some, well, I wouldn't put it past him to have some missing teeth, but I don't know. But the eyebrows are done really well. What grabs my attention though is the torso. It has a rubber overlay, and I thought, oh, well, it's gonna seam up or you can see inside of it somewhere. But they did a fantastic job of making it seamless. It's full-on shirt going as far as you can see up in there. And then the zipper on the front, it runs, okay, I can get it to right there where you see a gap, but I am never going to pose Joker like this. It doesn't get as far forward as that because of all the vest here, but there is quite a bit of movement. More than, well, okay, not more than I expected because we saw this with Batman Who Laughs, but it's still impressive. And then the hips, we've seen this many times before. It's McFarlane standard at this point. When you're articulating it, moving it around, it's very unobtrusive. It doesn't gap up. You can't see the joints, but because of the design, you do lose, it's supposed to be there, but it just works against itself, a swivel at the hip. But keeping with articulation, there is a dumbbell joint at the top of the head. I thought maybe there would be lower neck in the rubber part, but no, not a lot of up, not a lot of down, just too much chin on that face. More tilt than anything, and you know what? Okay. Swivel, there is a dumbbell joint with a cover, or well, butterfly. It moves around, not as much forward as I would like, but nice back. You get a little shift up and down. Whenever you're doing that though, you can pull the arm off, which I don't see as a bad thing. It's a nice pop. It stays on there most of the time, but you go pulling too hard. That hinges up at the shoulder, rotates all the way around, swivel at that bicep. Double elbow, I haven't actually done that. Oh, all the way. The McFarlane standard swivel, hinge, swivel at the wrist, side to side, but you can turn it around, then turn the hand down at the bottom. You can go up and down. We talked about the torso, very impressive. Hips swivel forward, back, out. Ooh, not a lot of rotation at the hip. Double knee. Oh yeah, easy. Boop, 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 boop. Hinge at the ankle, goes back, goes forward. There is a forward-facing pin for rocker, but like the wrist, you can turn the ankle joint and then go this way and here, and you can go for super tilt. Super tilt! And then there's a toe joint, goes, whoa, way past 90. For accessories, Joker or Jack comes with this long-barreled pistol. I don't think this is regulation. Shades of Batman 89 here. And then you can pop this off, and then you can pop the Jack head on there. Nice sculpt. You can tell it was Joker, or he was Joker at some point. But unfortunately, again, the eyes miss the sculpt work. I'm okay with the eyes themselves looking slightly to the left, but it's not where the eyes should be. This time around, they're both slightly low. But this time around, I like the mouth a bit better because it looks like a row of teeth. And again, with the browns on the hair, there is a black wash to it, bringing out all that nice detail. I was going to go for Batman next, but let's do Azrael. The more and more I look at this Batman design in the package, the more I want to save it for last. That's a good sign right off the bat of how soft these are. Sword's got more rubber bands than the figure does. Never mind, there was one hidden by the hand. Joker's key recruit in the crusade against Batman. And a figure like this, a character like this, a design like this, I feel is right in McFarlane's wheelhouse. And even in promotional images and looking at it in the package, you could see that it has a bunch of nice detail on it. Just look at the shoulder pad, how crisp and clean everything is right there. Bring it around under the cape. We got a Judge Dredd thing going on. Same thing for the gauntlets. He's got the metal on the back of the hands running up to the back of the forearm. But right up into the medieval look of the shoulders. Smaller shoulder pad on the right side, still nice detail, and that runs down to here, then comes all the way down to this sculpted design work. But then it's very flowy and wrinkly underneath, and that's running down to the waist where we see a pouch with a cross on it, a dagger that is not removable, coming across to a hanging down cross. This is the end of the belt hanging through the buckle. That comes around to get out of the way. Another pouch with a cross, more chain wrapped around. I love the look of this. Some more ornate design. But then we get to the legs, and they're very plain, and you know what? I'm okay with that. Again, I'm all about contrast. I'm always talking about it. The top is very heavy looking, but then you get to the bottom, and from lugging all this around, he's very muscled, but unhindered. I bet he could run you down quick. And then bringing that design work from the shoulders back down to here at the ankles, it's very simple shoes. Little cuff going around the top, but other than that, it's just, you know, not very fancy. But up at the head, oh, again, I love this design. With the hood hanging down in front of the face, but it's got that, is that seam sculpt? Yeah, the gold parts are sculpted onto the front. A soft rubber material, and then underneath you have the masked head. And even that has some line work to bring in design under the eyes, and this time around, the eyes are on the sculpt. The big flowy things, as soft as these are, when I first got it out, I thought, wait, how's that standing up? And attached to the shoulder pads, there is this harder plastic piece running underneath. You can see the separation, the seam line right there. And then the rubber part is glued here and sits on top of those plastic pieces, so it stays up in the air. It's not going down. I hate to push too hard. But then once you get past the peak and down, it's very flowy and not heavy at all. It doesn't pull the figure back, unless you get all squirrely with it. You get a good base, and he could stand straight up, and this, nothing. It ain't nothing to him. As with most McFarlane toys, the first thing I had to try was the waist joint, and it's all there. There's a ball joint up, ball joint down, or some kind of, you know, McFarlane type joint in there. For a big guy, he's all over. But more than that, I thought, oh, that head is not moving around, but the whole thing is on some kind of floating assembly that has a dumbbell or neck joint under there. So the hood moves with the head any direction you want to go. That makes me want every character I've ever had with a hood on to implement this into their design. But this does have the advantage of having all this shoulder gear around it to hide that joint. Other companies do this. This is amazing. Makes me want to pull it out of there and see what the hell's going on. Let's pull. Oh, it's not coming. Oh, but you can move the... Wait a second. What's going on with the head? Oh, there's another joint up in there. There's a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck inside the hood. If you do want to turn the head inside the hood, you can. I don't see myself ever using that other than getting the hood out of the way, but I like this look right here where he's barely peeking out. Yeah, like that. And you can achieve that with all this joint setup. But going over articulation, now that we've talked about the neck for way too long, I just love that piece. Just look. Some up with some extra up inside the hood. Down. Swivel. And again, that all works inside the hood too. There's a dumbbell joint with a cap. You go forward and back, up and down. That hinges up, swivels all the way around. You have to work around the shoulder armor a little bit. Oh, I bet it's even worse over here. Oh, yep. And it gets in the way of that too. Swivel at the bicep, beautifully hidden under those tassels hanging down. Single elbow. Let's see what this does. Oh, 90, but it is a big bulky guy. But because of the thickness of the forearm, you can get this elbow that kicks in, so you never actually break the sculpt. The wrist joint is again hidden by this band going around the forearm, and you can move it around, have it up and down, side to side, swivel, swivel. 2 points of articulation for the waist. Again, that is insane. Around the waist is a soft material like these hanging downies back here. Get the legs to come forward. Oh, back. That's the best I've seen in a while. Out. Oh, better in Spider-Man. There is some rotation there. Double knee. Oh, easy again. Big bulky guy kicking his own ass. Ankles are the same as the wrists, but the sculpt kind of gets in the way of back. Not so much forward though. Some rocker and then a toe joint. It's Azrael. Of course, he's going to come with a sword, and I love the design on this thing. They even have Jesus on the cross there. Some nice plastic used. It has some give to it, and out of the package, it's slightly bowed, but I can live with that because it comes with this translucent orange piece of fire, but it slides right over the blade and it stays on. It even has a snap at the end, not falling off. He's a little too bulky to get into a two-handed pose, which I feel like he should have with this sword. But again, look at that muscle right there. He can hold it one-handed. I don't mind too much, as long as he keeps that head movement. And then finally, let's get to Batman himself. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of hated this design when I first saw it. It strays away from what I'm used to, but the more I saw it, the more I saw promotional pictures of the figure, artwork from the comic books, I slowly came around to really like it. The gloves usually ride up onto the forearm somewhere. This is very short gloves, but then the boots, which usually come to here, go all the way up the leg. So that's another aspect I had to get used to, but it carries itself like the Azrael. It's very top heavy, and you see a lot of gray up here and muscle, but then it disappears as you go down the figure. And I mean it as in him. Your eye is drawn right here. Also had to get used to the collar design too. It makes him feel Dracula-ish. But at the same time, we've seen Batman costumes before have a collar, so it wasn't a big deal. In fact, it kind of compensates for the short ears. It brings more points to the overall look. The utility belt, it's what we're used to. Hell, I don't even know if they call it a utility belt anymore. Big and chunky, and you have the buckle. You have pouches running around the sides. Do they go? Oh, well, there's a big one over here for shark repellent, but then not much around back. It also has a knife sticking up here. It's a rubbery piece, so it's not going to break off if you get crazy with the articulation, but it's not removable. No trunks. That's another thing. Again, it brings all the gray to the top of the body. The lines for the boots are sculpted in, but below that, you just get muscular. Well, I don't know. There's this techie look details to the front. The spike sticking out of the back of the ankle, which I guess if you come around with a back roundhouse kick, that's gonna woo. And then fairly basic feet. There's these two black lines right there, I guess, just to break things up. And then the spikes, where we usually see them on the gloves, are integrated into the bodysuit itself. And then the chest logo. A big departure from what we usually see. In fact, it's, well, I don't know, it's kind of Nightwing-ish, isn't it? But you have the bat ears on it, and it comes up to, well, kind of a point right there. And then the louver look, that's actually sculpted in there. On top of it being glossy, it also reflects the light really well. Oh man, that is kind of cool. It's another thing to draw your eye right here, you know, besides the yellow belt. The head, just a hint of eyes peeking out. They're very narrow, but they look straight, straighter than my Joker. Black line for the mouth, just to set it apart from the skin tone that's all around right there. Nice brow work. It sinks the eyes into the head, gives them a more meaner look. And then like we talked about, the collar running down to the cape. It's got nice wrinkle work. It's got points on the ends. In fact, it has smaller points up here. They don't stick out, but there's just enough there to stand out in its silhouette. In fact, when you turn on, oh, yeah, that's bit disturbing if you saw this standing in an alleyway. Fairly soft, not going to get in the way, and it's not heavy at all. It stands straight up, not dragging him back. And like Azrael, single elbow, but it barely sticks out. In fact, looking at it right here, you're like, is that even an elbow joint? But you kick it, and it does come up to 90. Big muscle, single joint. Oh, the elbow comes down again. Very clean. But going over articulation, what's up here? There's a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck, allowing him to look slightly up, slightly down. No tilt. Swivel. What is under here? Whoa, big cap. There's a ton of movement there. Forward and back and forward and back. Hell, there's so much movement that the cap, oh yeah, see, it loses itself every now and then. But it swings up. Because of that, you can get even further like that. But the cape's going to drag you down. Whoop. Goes all the way around. Swivel at the bicep. Like we talked about, single elbow comes up to 90. Standard McFarlane wrist up and down, or you can move it around. Dumbbell or ball down in the waist and then mid-torso. Top doesn't move as much as Azrael does, but you can crunch. Arc back. Lots of tilt. The belt and crotch piece is all a soft piece of material, so it gets out of the way of the leg. Back out. There is some swivel there, but it gets in the way of itself. Double knee. I haven't done this. Oh, he doesn't reach. Ankle hinges back, forward facing pin for rocker, but it works a bit like a high heel. But again, you can turn that joint sideways, go super tilt. And then the toe joint goes all the way up. For accessories, I'm guessing this is some kind of hook shooter or a grapnel or something. His finger is split, so you can fit it between there. It looks like what we're used to. And then it comes with this throwing out or shooting out rope piece with the batarang tied to the end. And it comes down, twirls around, and at first I thought, oh, that plugs into the end of this, but there's no hole. So I guess it's more like a lasso or something, maybe? Because there's also this coiled up rope looking piece with the same batarang tied to the end. And you've seen the hook on the side of the belt. This hangs there, I think. It looks kind of weird with the upper loop hanging higher than the hook. Can you turn that around, maybe? If you hang it there, well, I guess that's okay, but you still have some loop that's hanging from nothing. Maybe if I turn it around like this, it doesn't want to reach then he'd be stabbing himself in the armpit. Size-wise, they're all about the same. Batman's at 6 3/4, and Azrael's about the same inside the hood. The hood puts him up to about 7 inches. The Wave 1 Superman and Batman, although this Batman is thicker in the chest. And putting these side by side, the chest isn't as weird. And then putting Superman beside this Batman, style-wise, they don't fit, but size-wise, they do. They come in slightly shorter than McFarlane's other lines, like the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn and his Fortnite line, which I'm actually okay with. I always think of this as kind of an offshoot Batman villain. And they also sent Spawn with Axe. That's going to be a Target exclusive. My short little review of it, I like the axe. It looks more brutal, and I love the glowing eyes. Alongside a couple of other stylized figures like NECA's original comic book Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or their cartoon version, but they are still bigger than your old Mattel DC Universe classics. But next to Batman Who Laughs and Nightwing, there's still some scale issues that I feel like they are working on, especially here. But it seems to be getting better. So at the end of the day, a very dynamic set. And I say dynamic mostly because they're artist specific. An artist I wasn't familiar with before these toys were announced. But as I've messed with them and Googled pictures and looked here and got into the nitty gritty of the details and everything, I've grown to like them more and more and more. Again, it's not your classic Batman or your Azrael or your Joker, but at the same time, it's okay to change things up every now and then. And to get them in action figure form this good, oh, that's icing on the cake. Now, I have Jack's head on here right now. The Joker head, the eyes are just too off. But these are hitting stores right now. I may try to track down another one because I like the look of this Joker head. I've also noticed posing him around, Batman's feet are very narrow, so it's hard to get a balance going there if you're going for an action pose. But Azrael, with those big old feet, he has no problem getting in stances. And I'm a liar, he can hold the sword in 2 hands. You have to kind of get at it, but it can be done. McFarlane also owned up to the scale issue back at Toy Fair, and they said they were going to start working on that. But to me, these all fit in really well together. And they look good, even though they're a display to themselves. So if you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or just in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh.